Hi, and welcome to the Kelly Kitley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week I have hopeful, honest, and deeply human conversations with change makers. And today I am feeling all the feels having Brenda Wilhelmson on the podcast as a guest. She is an award-winning journalist turned author of Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife and a Woman in Long-Term Recovery. And for the listeners, I was sharing with Brenda before we started recording what mentor she has been for me before she even knew it, and is somebody who really started the landscape for women in recovery and speaking out loud. And so, thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you for asking me. I'm like really happy to see you today and be on this podcast with you.
Well, and it's not that often that you reach out to an author and they are willing to meet you for coffee. And when I first got sober 13 years ago, there weren't a ton of quit lit books out there,
Mhm.
especially for moms. And so I found your book right away in early sobriety and just related to so much of what you talked about. And then I looked you up because, like, social media wasn't that big 13 years
Right.
ago, or at least I didn't use it. Like, how did I
Yeah.
even contact her? But I knew you lived close, and I said, "Hey, I would love to meet you for coffee." And you said yes, and I feel like that's what women in recovery do. They say yes, and they help other women.
Yeah.
And they said in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to find people that had something that you want, and you were one of those people. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, what made you decide to write your book? I know you were a journalist and a mom of two, and you know, it was you came out when it wasn't popular to come out.
Right. Right. Yeah. So there was no literature for me when I
Mhm.
was getting sober, and I was high functioning. My life hadn't gone to pieces. I still was married, still in the house, raising kids. Life looked good on the outside, and I was falling apart on the inside. And I started going to 12-step meetings, and I wasn't loving them. I was looking at myself as, well, I'm not like these people, but I had this rule for myself that I didn't drink before 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
So I was going to meetings when I would otherwise have that martini shaker in my hand and, be off to the races. And for whatever, even though I wasn't liking them, I didn't, I purposely didn't want to identify with the people in those rooms, and was looking for all sorts of reasons why I didn't belong there. And but for whatever reason, I wasn't drinking. Going there for an hour was, I didn't start drinking, so I was going, but I didn't like it. Um, and after one meeting, I left there wanting to drink,
Mhm.
and I went to Barnes and Noble to try and find something that spoke to me because, again, I was different and I wasn't like these people and blah 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 blah. And, anything, all the books on the shelf were low bottom, they were living in crack houses. Just, their lives had just plummeted. And, um, and so I was just really depressed. I drove home, I got into bed, and I'm laying in bed, and, I worked as a journalist for years, and just the thought popped into my head, write the book. Write what you're looking for. There are a lot of other people just like you out there. So,
Mhm.
you know, start keeping a journal and write that book that you're looking for. So that's what I started doing. And honestly, I kind of wonder if I would have stayed sober without that book motivating me to stay sober because I knew I couldn't write that book if I didn't, you know.
Sure.
I'm like, if I start drinking, I can't really write this book.
Whatever keeps us sober, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And so it was very therapeutic, you know.
yes, I do.
I figured as I was writing it, if I was the only person who ever saw it, I was at least staying sober and I was processing everything that I was going through. It
Hmm.
was, it was therapy.
Yeah,
And then, once I was done with it, I started blogging it and I'm like, well, if only one person gets help by reading this
sure,
blog, it'll be worth it. And then it got published and then I started, you know, as a writer, your goal is to be published.
sure.
And so on one hand, I was thrilled that I was getting my book published, and on the
Yeah.
other hand, I was scared. I was like freaking
Mhm.
out that because nobody knew. I was
Right.
very secretive, you know?
Well, and you didn't just get your book published. I mean, you were published by Hazelton.
Yeah,
And so that is a
yeah,
huge platform to
yeah.
be able to share your story. And, as I was doing my research and pulling up old media clips of yours, I saw Ann Curry interviewing you on the Today Show. And she also had a clinician on. But
Mhm.
I just think that so when was that? So you wrote the book in 2011, or it was
And it,
published
yeah,
in 2000?
I was on the show a few months after it came out, so it was also in 2011. I think it was like June 2011. It
Okay.
was during the summer. My book came out in the spring, and then I think it was 3 months later I was on the Today Show.
And I mean, I think one of the quotes was, oh, what did they say about you? Yeah, I mean, oh, striking a nerve. Your story was striking a nerve because
Yeah,
what? So many women and moms could relate.
yeah,
And it was just
yeah.
shining light on the normalization of mom drinking culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing you were a big part of that as well as me. I mean,
Yeah.
I was living in a suburb. I had side hustles, but ultimately I was a stay-at-home mom and
Hmm.
hanging out with other women, raising children.
Right.
And we had like this little play group that started out when my oldest was in preschool, just about to enter kindergarten. And then once the kids got older, I was the one who turned it into a drinking group.
Hmm.
It went from play group to mom's happy hour, you
Hmm.
know?
hmm
Yeah.
Ours used to be the same, play group and happy hour. So,
That's pretty common too, but
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you did what so many of us did. You'd wait. It was the cycle, right? You'd wake up, promise not to drink that day, try to hold off. 3 o'clock, you're feeling better, the hangover's gone away,
Mhm.
and then you start drinking, and
Yeah,
that continues until you pass out on the couch and
yep.
do it all over again, swearing that you weren't going to drink again that day. Um, and so, how old were your kids when you got sober?
So my oldest, I have 8 years between the two of them, and my youngest was 2, and my oldest was 10.
Okay. And
Yeah.
now they are how many years sober?
Now they are 25 and 33.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
you've been sober for how long? I can't do the math that quickly.
23 years.
Oh my gosh. And what is
Yeah.
it like now?
It's great, you know? I mean, I hate to think what my life would look like if I hadn't gotten sober, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
Um, because like so many of us, I was afraid when I got sober that life was going to be dull and boring, and I was going to be dull and boring, and I would lose my friends, and actually the drinking friends did go by the wayside. It was just kind of the natural course of things.
Hmm.
Because I know, when I was still drinking, I wanted to hang out with people who could drink with me.
Sure.
I wasn't interested in sober friends.
Mhm.
I
Of course
wanted
not.
somebody to party with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm,
and so just I've evolved a lot over the years. You
mm.
know, I've grown a lot, I've evolved a lot, and in a good way. I evolved out of my marriage.
And I remember you telling me that when we had coffee or some
Mm,
time after that, because that was one of my biggest concerns. I met my husband in my parents' bar, and we were
yeah.
drinking buddies, and I was like, how does a marriage last when one person is still drinking and the other isn't?
It's really common
Yeah.
for divorce to happen when
Yes.
one gets sober and the other doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there were many reasons why we chose each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we were what we knew. He comes from an alcoholic family and he wasn't alcoholic himself. He's got a lot of other issues, but that wasn't one of them.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so, and he was kind of okay with my drinking, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Sure. Well, it was familiar to him.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You know, as long as I was holding down the fort and I looked good and the kids looked good and the house looked good and he was fed and
Uh-huh.
he was,
Uh-huh.
getting laid, everything was fine, and then I I got sober and
Mhm.
our lives got really different, I mean, um, just things, I used to be when we connected, I was, you know, I I was this hard-boiled, tough little journalist, hard partying, writer girl, and snarky and, cynical and sarcastic. And then I started softening up, and I didn't want to
Mm.
be that person anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was still in that mode, because we were both working for the same newspaper, our first newspaper jobs, or one of the first newspaper jobs out of college.
Okay.
And we met and, we just clicked. And it was that whole heavy drinking, writing environment. And you know, just the whole sarcastic, cynical, snarky thing going
Hmm.
all the time. And then finally I was just like, I don't want to be that anymore. I don't want to suck on that bitter root anymore. I just, you know, I wanted to be like honest and true. And,
Yes. Yes.
when you start working a 12-step program and you start looking at yourself and,
Yes.
you know, how you interact in the world and how you impact others and your own life. And,
Mhm.
I started really getting in touch with, thankfully, what I am under this personality that I created for myself,
Mm. Mhm.
and just wanted to be real and just be done with the facade. And writing the book helped a ton because
Writing is so
that
therapeutic.
mask came
Yeah.
off.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and when you take an approach of writing that is self-reflective and you're writing a memoir or an autobiography, I mean, you're really getting as real as you can because it is a therapeutic tool as well.
Yeah.
And so that is vulnerable for us, but it does our readers a really, really good service to be able to be
Yeah.
real and authentic and tell it like it is.
Because we're so much the same,
Yeah,
I
we are.
mean, it that going back to your original question too, once I started getting sober and I started going to meetings and I started, there were a few here and there that I liked. Inevitably, in every meeting that I went to, somebody would say something that rang my bell, that
Hmm.
would resonate, that I'd be like, oh, that I'd connect with.
Hmm.
And it was happening more and more. And it was such a relief to me to not be alone with it anymore, to know that there were plenty of people having the same thoughts, having the same feelings, going through the same, emotional landscape that I was.
Hmm.
And I wanted to share that because I felt like I was the only wackadoo out there, you
We
know?
do, because a
Yeah,
lot of it is, I mean, it's a brain disorder. So we're constantly thinking about and trying to manage and control and the insanity and crazy making of it all that we are just inside our own head. And so that's what I love about meetings is you talk about the things that are inside your head
yeah,
and people are
yeah,
like, me too.
yeah.
And I am curious because I kind of straddle old school recovery and then also some of this like new age I mean, I don't even want to label it, but I think the I just updated my book because of the language, right?
Mhm.
I think the language and the landscape has changed so much, and the diagnostic criteria for and the language we use is alcohol use disorder, and so a lot of people that I interview on the podcast are like, I don't identify as an alcoholic. I identify as somebody who was a problem drinker, or I am living a sober free life now. So I'm curious to know if, in your recovery process today, are you still going to meetings? Do you identify as an alcoholic? What are some things that are like non-negotiables for you in how you live your life on a daily basis?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the alcoholic label, you know. I I'll call myself a drunk, an
Yeah, what we
alcoholic,
call
you
ourselves
know.
is a little, we're not as gentle when we're talking
You
to
know,
somebody else. Yeah.
I guess I don't really feel like I want to doll that up,
Yeah,
or, make it, somehow prettier than it is, because it's
sure.
not pretty,
Yeah,
And yeah, it's kind of like the grandma and the nana thing. It's like, if I ever have grandchildren, just call me grandma.
I love
You
it.
know, I
Yeah,
just the cutesy, dumbing down and the
mhm,
let's put a prettier face on that. I don't care. I mean, if
yeah,
other people want to do that, I don't care if they want to, but it doesn't matter to me. And
yeah.
and I yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and for
and
me, it was like a relief because I had taken the test so many times online that we do. Like, are you an
I
alcoholic or are
know,
you
right?
not? And I'm like, well, I kind of am, but I'm not really, this
Yeah,
high
yeah,
functioning.
yeah. I
Um,
took so many tests like that and,
yeah,
failed.
right. And so I think for me, it was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to call myself an alcoholic because I know I need help. And if that's
Yeah,
what I need to tell myself to get help, then that works for me. And there was some relief in that. Like you said, even all these years of sobriety, we still have to remember what it was like so that we
yeah,
don't go back there.
yeah, yeah. And it's been 23 years now. And yeah, I still go to meetings.
Mhm.
I go to 12-step meetings and I call myself Buddha-ish now.
Ooh, I love
I
that.
do recovery
Yeah.
Dharma and I started
Okay.
a recovery Dharma meeting in my town. I started doing them online during COVID and it was like, using the Buddha's principles, um, which actually helped me immensely to find compassion and love and softness for myself. I
Mm.
knew in my head that I was supposed to do that.
Mhm.
I mean, I'd heard over and over, you have to forgive yourself before you can forgive other people. You have to be kind to yourself before you can be kind to others, on and on and on. And I just didn't know how to do that for myself. I
Mhm.
beat myself up a ton. And I love the 12-step program. It's, got me sober, I still go to meetings and I love sitting in meetings with newcomers who
Mhm.
remind me and I hear their stories and I'm like, oh yeah, because it's been a
Mhm.
while for me and
Yeah.
I don't ever want to feel like, oh, I'm cured and, I've been around obviously long enough where I've seen people with long-term sobriety go out there again. It's not good.
Mhm.
A lot of them don't make it,
Right.
they're
Right.
yeah.
And that's important
Um
for people to hear because I think that oftentimes the assumption is, well, you've been sober for 23 years. I mean, you're good, right? Like, you don't need to drink. You don't think about drinking, and it's about the emotional sobriety that you have to keep in check so you don't want to go back and drink too.
Yeah. 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 And, for the most part, it's not on my radar at all, but
Hmm.
every once in a while,
Hmm.
something will, and it could be years could go by, but, something will like tweak me.
Yeah.
Like, there was somebody who left a can of Foster's in my refrigerator.
Hmm.
And as I was dumping it out and smelling it, it's like I kind of wanted to chug the thing.
Hmm.
You know?
No sips. You didn't want to sip. You wanted to chug.
Yeah. I was kind of like, oh, and it
Yeah.
was sort of shocking to me, because I'm pretty much not affected that way, but
Mhm.
it can fly out of nowhere, or you can be stressed out and just wanting to lower the stress and
Yeah.
escape that, the whole wanting to run away from reality and
Mhm.
numb out and, just not feel for a while because, you know, life is intense
Mhm.
and it's not always fun, a lot of it's uncomfortable, I mean, it's everything. It's beautiful and it's hard and it's
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
And depending on situations and, chronic uh, anxiety, there's a sometimes you want to escape
Of
that,
course. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, and you're living this beautiful life. You left Illinois, and the pictures I see that you post in nature are absolutely beautiful. You are like one with the earth. Tell people where you live and what you what you're doing.
I live in Taos, New Mexico, and I wound up this is an office. Um, you can't really see like the grand views right now, but I live in this, it's called an earthship. It's 6,500 square feet, and it's got like these massive windows. So the light that's hitting me right now, I've got some like blinds down. It's like all natural, I'm kind of like in a greenhouse almost.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I look out at the mountains and I look out at the gorge and the mesa and um, I'm out in nature all the time. It's a ski town, it's a hiking town. It's,
Hmm.
for this little remote mountain town, it's got a great town, like downtown area that's full of art galleries and live music. And so the culture here is phenomenal. I mean, it's just, I feel like I got so lucky landing where I did,
How did you land there? I mean, it was before COVID when you moved out there.
Yeah, I
Why
had been
did you
wanting
pick it?
to move to the mountains for years.
Okay.
Because I like skiing,
Okay.
yeah. And every time I was out in the mountains, I just, I feel the divine, the great divine when I'm out in the mountains. I just always, I don't know, there's always been a very strong pull for me since I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
And I'd go on ski trips and I'd come home and my children were like petrified that I was going to yank them out of school and make them move because I would start um, looking at what the schools were in the whatever ski town that I had
Mhm.
just been in, and they never, I was living in a nice suburb of Chicago, and they had a good, I couldn't justify yanking them. So, and
So
I
you
was
waited.
married at the time, and my husband was portable as long as he lived by an airport. And
Okay.
anyway,
Okay.
so
Uh-huh.
so they were not surprised that when my youngest son graduated high school, I came out here. And
You couldn't wait. You were like crossing off the days on the
yeah, it
calendar.
was a plan, like a
Yes.
very long-term plan,
Yes. Yes.
and so I came out here. I didn't know if I didn't know for sure if I would like living here,
Mhm.
but it was
Mhm.
just like it just yeah, it had been a plan since I was in my 20s that someday I was going to live in the mountains. Someday I was going to live in the mountains. And I was
Mhm.
wanted to be the Rockies and I wanted to ski and and so I came out here and it all worked out and here I am. I've been here for 7 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I put your book at the back of my book as a resource for other
Oh,
women. I don't know
thank
if I
you.
told you that or not. You, of
No, you
course, of
didn't. Thank
course.
you.
And I'm curious to know, do you write anymore where people can
I
read what you
I
write?
I do, and actually I am I'm looking for an agent right now for my second book.
You're writing a second book, or did you write it already?
It's done. It's
Okay.
done. And hopefully I will find because the first book that I wrote, Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife, Hazeldon published it without an agent. I didn't have a
Mhm.
go-between on that one.
Yep.
I didn't have an agent.
They were
And
like, you're an alcoholic, you qualify.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
alcoholic book. Yeah. We like this one, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this one, my marriage did not last,
Hmm.
I think 10 years after, yeah. The first 10, we were married almost 22 years. And the first 10 years I drank, and then the last 10 years I was sober, and things,
Hmm.
as we alluded to earlier, um, we, I changed and he didn't.
Yep.
And so anyway, I wrote a book about that,
Hmm.
and it's called Thank You, Ashley Madison. Um, and I don't know if a lot of people, some people know, some people don't, that Ashley Madison is a website for married people who want to cheat with other married people.
No, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
That's a good thing.
Yes. Yes. It does sound familiar. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There was like a big security breach, like,
Yes.
years
Thank you.
ago, and people
Hmm.
were getting outed for being on it. And so, yeah, my ex was on there the last, and he was on there when my book was published. And yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and interestingly, yeah, when I was on the Today Show, he did not want to be on TV, which I thought was really strange because I thought like, oh my God, he'd want to be all over that.
Yeah.
No, well, because he was on that and would have been identified. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Okay, so that second book needs to get picked up by an agent and sold
right?
because
Yeah.
and the reason I say that too is because my clients have aged with me. I used to work with a lot of young moms when I was a young
Mhm.
mom and trying to navigate life. Now my clientele is middle-aged women, between 40 and 65. And so
Yeah.
um I think that there are a lot of life situations that women
Yeah.
have in common. And so that is really important. Again, another thing that people sometimes feel like I'm all alone. This doesn't happen to other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So get that book published, please.
Yeah. From your mouth to God's ears.
Yes. Okay. So that's on
Yeah.
the list.
That's on the list. I am actively, yeah, shopping for agents at the moment. So
Okay.
hopefully,
So anybody
yeah, hopefully
listening,
the
if you're
right
dating,
one
yep, yep.
will appear and
Mhm.
we'll go. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wonderful.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
this is such a full circle moment. Never did I ever imagine, I feel like I kind of followed in your footsteps writing a book and being on the Today Show to shine a light on the normalization of mom drinking culture. And, I feel like they cover that every 5 years or so. And
yeah.
um, we were lucky enough to be able to be the face of that because I think our stories are very relatable. And
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you gave me permission by meeting with me and writing your book and leading the way. So thank you.
I am just so, impressed with what you've done and what you're doing out there. You're doing really good work, important work, and yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
for doing what you do.
Absolutely. And I will put the link to your book in the show notes as well as where people can find 12-step meetings and Dharma meetings as well.
Yeah,
That's really
they're really
exciting.
good. They're,
Okay.
the combination of the two is a
I
pretty good deal.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and you
And
don't
living
have
in
to
the
be a
mountains.
Buddhist. You don't have to be it's just it's very yeah, it's even less
Non-denominational. Yeah.
non-denominational and like zero God talk in it. So
Okay.
yeah. So if
Yeah.
you have a problem with the other one,
Yeah.
yeah, might be a
Okay.
good thing for you to explore.
Great. And thank you so much. For all those listening, just a friendly reminder to be the change you wish to see in the world and let that start within your family, your neighborhood, your community, and the world. Thank you so much and have a great
Thank
day.
you. Yeah.